What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday, and I'm telling you, I am burning the candle at both ends. I don't have time to eat an orange, or at least peel it before I eat it. I'd have to have somebody else peel it, and then I eat it. But nevertheless, that's not going to stop us from continuing today with a look at Fanstoys Fort Max. Now, I know that it has been a while since this has been, it was back in September that this was revealed, that the pre-orders went up and all this stuff. I know, but we've had other stuff that we've had to kind of tackle. It's been on my list of things to do. On Patreon, I had a pretty in-depth conversation about it. For those that are on Patreon, a lot of this is going to be a review of that, so feel free to go about your day if you're good. For everybody else, we're going to be talking about some of those things here because it is something worth talking about, I think. It's been a long time coming. I think it was 2018, maybe 2000, I want to say 2018 that the reveal first hit. I can't exactly remember, but it's been years. I had mixed feelings about whether or not we'd ever see it. I still do, but we'll talk about it. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how it's going to impact a lot of different things. But before we do have to do a little bit of housekeeping. Very minimal. For one, Sit Down Saturday last week with the verses, look, I was just as surprised as a lot of you guys. There was one person actually that was in the comments that was like, how could you say that is better when in this and this and this and this is better on the DS? And I was like, yeah, I agree with you. And if you look at the final score, the DS won that and that. So yeah, it just didn't win all of these things over here, which is where I put it, which is just fascinating to me because it scored better, obviously with the Takara. And the Takara beat the Make Toys, and it's just interesting to see how different categories, different companies check different boxes in different places is what is interesting to me about it. It doesn't matter who wins the verses. If you're happy with what you bought, then you win. It's just supposed to be a fun exercise to look at. On top of that, we had the New Age Devastator, and I made an error, and I'm going to fess up to it and apologize, but I talked about the translucent plastic in the eyes. Somebody pointed out, and many people pointed out about the battery option, the light up feature. So here's what I'm going to say about that. I missed that. I should have mentioned it. It has a light up feature. I'm sure it works well. However, on the other hand, what I do need to say is that even if it does have a light up feature, we have seen companies have well-painted decoed eyes and also have a light up feature. It is possible to do both. They are not mutually exclusive, so I'm still gigging them for it. And I think that's it. Lastly, I will be at TFCon this weekend. So if you're watching this and you can drive, come on down to Baltimore and check me out. I'm at the tables. In the main room, I believe, so come through and check out the table, shake hands, or give a fist bump if, for germs or whatever the case may be. I think people have been chomping it a bit to get together for a while, because of the madness of last year and so on and so forth, so I'm hoping to see a lot of people. And that being said, we can kind of get into this. So first, what I want to do is talk about the history of this. When we saw this originally at a TFCon, we saw this kind of black and white CAD rendering of a Fort Max. And when I talked about it here, I was pretty vocal that I think it looks cool. I think it works. I think it's a functioning thing. I think they've got that mapped out. However, I also think it's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek, jest, hey, look at what we could do. But perhaps it was also a bit unrealistic to suspect that we ever would do it. Due to price, due to size, due to logistics, due to all those things, I kind of in my mind said, man, I think they're just kind of having a go. Not unlike a Devastator that they showed the silhouette of not too long ago, if you guys remember that. And I was like, man, I don't think this is them announcing a Devastator. I think this is them having a go. And I kind of felt the same way about the Fort Max, and that theory tended to hold up for years and years. And it still may hold up, but what we did get was a look at a finished prototype of Cerebros. Cerebros. I don't know why that word eats me alive. But we got a finished prototype, or at least a finished prototype. It might be a test shot for all we know, of this guy. So with that, let's take a second and talk about the images that were revealed before we come back and have a discussion about it. Not going to take too long on this. All right, so let's talk about them. After much ado and much time spent waiting, we did get images. Let's talk about it. So we get the head, obviously, for the larger version, the Fort Max, with the sword being used as the connection point, and the blue ears, which are seemingly parts forming pieces, but per usual, the head sculpt looks fantastic. And the same can be said for the bot. Just from this, I don't necessarily see that metallic Fanstoys paint that I love, but I'm also willing to chalk that up to just not being able to make it out from the pictures, or it not having that finished deco yet. In addition to that, I think the sculpt work, proportions, and likeness and all of that is right on the money where we expect it to be. And the same goes for Cerebros Headmaster as well. We got an alternate face that I won't be using, and neither will you, more than likely. And then this whole display bit, which shows some of the parts forming elements. as well as the Sword Keeper, etc. All that stuff's pretty cool. Pretty smart stuff, not only for an accessory, but also for a display option if the final body doesn't come with it, because that's really up in the air. But I think it looks good. I think it looks good in all of the ways that you would expect it to look good. I think they're trying to take stuff into account. I do worry about the articulation. I am looking at some of these joints and some of the poses. They seem limited. That's been Fanstoys' kind of Achilles heel, in my opinion, as of late. But I think that overall, it looks pretty fantastic, as we would expect, right? Because aesthetics is never really the problem with Fanstoys. I'm not sure if they've ever made anything that looks bad. I think you could make the argument that perhaps the first spin drift doesn't look as accurate as you would hope, but I don't even think that looks bad in and of itself. They have a way of making things look cool. It's kind of their strength. So, I mean, look, we got to talk about there's good and bad to everything, right? And I want to end on the good. I like to end on the positive. So let's start with the negative. Let's start about the concerns. Let's start about the things that I'm not sure are actually, good ideas. So let's start with the idea of this Fort Max actually coming to light, okay? And take into consideration for just a second the amount of logistics. Now, I think we're hearing companies say, and we're hearing distributors say and all this stuff. I don't believe anything until I actually see it in real life next to a ruler. But we're hearing 45 to 50 inches tall. How many feet is 50 inches? That means it's going to be over 4 feet tall. That's very, very large. And it's going to take up an awful lot of room. And it's a gift and a curse, right? You finally have a Fort Max that's huge. It's still not in scale technically with what it should be, but it's huge, right? But now you got to find a place to display it. You have to think about this now. Don't think about it later. I can give you an idea or at least something to support that. There's a lot of people that bought a Unicron and then got it and then didn't know what to do with it and then were very frustrated. I'm talking about the Hasbro one. So if you're getting this or you plan on getting this and it actually comes to fruition, start thinking about it now, because you don't want to be a guy that can't display this thing properly or have a place for it even. The logistics of the space that this is going to consume in your house is going to be significant. It reminds me much of Fight Club, with the more things you own, the more they end up owning you. If you have the place for it, then fantastic. You're lucky. I don't think that I'm going to be able to work it out. I will probably pass on this as a whole, the city buy. I'll get the Headmaster. I'll probably pass on Cerebros. I'll probably pass on the Fort Max element. The other thing that concerns me is this is yet another release and a very ambitious reveal from them. And it's not really a reveal, right? But at least it's more indulgence into that reveal. And it's ambitious. And what does that mean for our Superion? What does that mean for our Menasor? Why are there so many problems? Now, I say that, right? I'm saying that today, and then today, the Menasor and Superion will be fully shown in person at TFCon or something. Do you know what I'm saying? But I can't help but ask that question. The problems that are plaguing Menasor and Superion, in my opinion, are probably due to weight distribution of the combined mode. What does that mean for how they're going to handle Fort Max? Do they have the self-control not to make this thing weigh 2,000 pounds and perhaps rely on more lightweight approach in order to get it to actually be functional? I'm not sure. Only time will tell, but it's something that's worth considering. It's something that's worth thinking about. The price of Cerebros was $220, I think, $220-esque. It was about the size of, or about the price of a Hot Toys, rather, which seems awfully steep in consideration of what we were used to paying for Headmasters from Fanstoys not too long ago, right? And I agree. I don't know what to chalk that up to other than they know their worth, they know their value. When stuff went up, it sold out. Which brings us to another problem with Fanstoys and their business practices, but we've kind of talked about that in the past. They don't have the supply-demand things sorted out because there's plenty of people that still wanted to get in and couldn't because the pre-order wasn't up long enough. However, I will say I've been watching BBTS with Fanstoys specifically recently pretty closely, and it'll change day to day. What's available, what's sold out. What's available, what's sold out. So if you're in the market, keep an eye open. There's weird stuff going on there. There's weird ingredients in that soup, and I haven't quite cracked the code on it yet, but it's worth exploring. There's also the bit of the non-refundable deposit being asked by a lot of people. I don't know what to make of that. It doesn't seem like they have a big issue with products not selling out, so I'm not sure why they're so invested in having that $25 is what it seems to be in most places. I have no doubt that if people cancel their pre-orders, somebody will come in and scoop up that pre-order. And my advice to anyone is that if you want this, get in on it, because $225 is far cheaper than what they're going to charge you on eBay, I promise you. I use the toy toy guy. I'm not sure how many pieces this body will be broken down to, even if they decide to do the body, which we'll get to here in a bit. But if it's multiple pieces, prepare to pay for an awful lot of shipping due to what's going on in the world regarding shipping. Just factor that into your expectations now so you don't have to cry about it later. Myself included, I'm telling myself the same advice. Now, I've been saying a lot about whether or not this will actually come to fruition, right? I've always thought that this was just kind of like a tongue-in-cheek thing, like I mentioned earlier. With this release, even then, my first gut impression was smart. Smart idea, Fanstoys. You can release this bot and you're not committed to doing the body. It's not a full-blown commitment because you can get away with just doing this bot. But then I've come across information, privileged information, that suggests that they are trying to do it. That's not saying that they will do it, because I'm sure there's a lot of logistical things on their end that are proposing challenges for them. But I know that they are taking those challenges into consideration and trying to overcome them. It's no longer a pipe dream, it's a goal for them. And that does change the possibility of things actually getting made. So it wouldn't surprise me at this point if this got made. And I say that to say this: if you would have told me that 2 months ago, I would have been surprised. I think that we should also acknowledge something else, and that is, if this actually does happen. One, are we going to get a Trypticon, Metroplex, Scorponok? I would say probably, I would say not to count on it. I would say there's a chance, but I wouldn't count on it. That being said, I do feel like this is a little bit of a weird choice between the four, but that's fine. I'll go on to say, here's the thing. Even if this piece comes out and people hate it, if it comes out and it's conceived or believed to be one of their weaker pieces, it's still going to be a historic release. And this is a company that already has a historic release under their belt, right? Quakewave is a historic release. Not every company can say that. Quakewave changed the way that things were done. If this comes out, it will change the way things are done. It'll change the way this company is seen. It will change their place in third-party history. Like, it's going to be an event. And, I mean, that's a pretty big achievement, especially for a third-party company to have an event piece. I say that to say this: even if it doesn't come out, I'm happy with just getting Cerebros. Like I said, I just don't know if I can justify that much space to this thing. Because we're talking about height with the 45 to 50 inches, right? We're not even talking about width. We're not talking about depth. We're not talking about the amount of space that this thing is really going to be required to occupy. And I respect it. I respect it. Don't get me wrong. I'm impressed by it. I'm in awe of it. And simultaneously, I might have to say, yeah, at this point, there's nothing that could possibly be enjoyable about this other than how beautiful it looks in a room, which is good enough for me, but I'm not willing to trade the amount of stuff that I do enjoy in that amount of space for one thing of a character. Honestly, that's not that even important to me personally, but that's a personal matter. But I will take a look. I am going to reassess and look around and see if I can find, like, what does it work here? Is it too much here? Is it not enough there? Or whatever the case may be. And if I can make it work, I'll get it. But I'm not married to this. I'm married to Cerebros. That's cool. I'm in for that. And I think that'll do it. Please, if you're at TFCon, hopefully you're watching this in line. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of entertainment on the way to get in the line, or whatever the case may be. Please stop by the table, say what's up, hang out, and we'll go from there. Like I said, I'm going to be exceptionally busy these next couple weeks, so bear with me if I don't get right back to you, or if I don't seem as available as I sometimes do. It's just because I got a lot going on. And I'm trying to make sure that you guys don't miss a beat content-wise, so that's important for me as well. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.